Welcome back to the garden here in Raleigh, North Carolina. In this video, I'm going to do my favorite flowering plant of August. We've been doing one of these each month. I think we've covered hydrangeas so far and several other things that, dahlias I think were last month. Salvia is definitely at the top of the list for August. There are a lot of different, so there are like 1,000 species of salvia, and even rosemary has been moved to the salvia, is now a salvia species. So there's just a ton of different salvias. Everybody watching can grow several of them. Salvia nemorosa tends to be one of the earlier ones, and so we have salvias that jump right out of the gate in April here, and they're already in bloom. As soon as they come out of the ground, they hit the ground running, and then hybrids like May Night just hit the ground running. Then we also have some of the Mexican salvias out here that are cool season flowers. So they flowered in the spring, they have shut down completely right now. It's just leaves. And come fall, as the nighttime temperatures get cooler, the days get a little shorter, they start blooming again. Hot Lips is one of the more famous ones of those. Then there are the really industrial salvia, and we have quite a few of those. The ones that really just put on a show all summer long. They can just be cut in half, and a lot of ours actually need to be cut in half right now. We're shooting this right at the beginning of August. We can cut a lot of these in half, and in 2 weeks, literally, they'll be blooming again. 2 to 3 weeks, all of them will. Probably the biggest bully, and also best for pollinator salvia in this garden is rhythm and blues. It draws probably the most hummingbird action in the entire garden, and also bumblebee action in the garden. That may not be true. There's an agastache over there that's probably better for the bumblebees, but this is right at the top of their list as well. It's pretty showy. It's got the the dark purple flower, and then it's got a black calyx right here. You can see this little wasp was just coming around. Got a insect probably on the back of it right here, trying to capture one of these little guys coming to feed on these flowers. But it has that black calyx. It's very, very showy. This one, though, when it goes to sleep and comes back in the spring, it's got to be controlled because it goes a little bit wild. It's not the showiest of all the salvias in the garden, but it never, ever, ever stops blooming. And here we are in August, and every piece of new growth. Every time one of these finishes, here's a flower spike that's finished, you get these side shoots just like this. There's 4 coming, so there'll be 4 additional flower spikes out of that. Or we could just go through here and cut the thing in half and it'd come right back out. We have a combination of ones that are hardy all the way up to zone 4 or 5, and then ones that are barely hardy here, like rhythm and blues, which we just showed you. Then we have some just flat out annual ones. They're perennial down in like 10 and 11, but for us, that we just planting them as annuals. One of those is down here. This is Vista Lavender. This is one of the salvias you'll frequently see on annual tables at garden centers. These again can just be cut off anytime, and they'll flush out and rebloom pretty quick. This one is another one that is likely perennial for us. We just have to get them through one winter. That's the thing with a lot of these zone 7, zone 8 salvias. They need one winter where it's not overly cold, overly whatever, and then once they get themselves established, they're very, very, very hardy. So this is Salgoon Lake Tahoe. We've got another Salgoon one I'm going to show you in just a minute. This one's very similar to that rhythm and blues in terms of color. It's got the purple flower and the black calyx, but it's a much more compact grower. I really, really like this plant. Hardy, again, it's hardy coming back. Then in front of that, and in this border across here, we have Summer Jewels salvia. These actually need to be cut right now. I realized as we were starting this video that this is probably the least amount of flowers we've had on these Summer Jewels all season. But we have Summer Jewels white, we have Summer Jewels pink, and then we'll go out front in a minute and we'll take a look at the Summer Jewels red as well. These probably have more pollinators on them as a group. We've got some other ones out in the front garden that may challenge these that we'll show you in just a minute. But I think overall Summer Jewels is the best. This one you can do from seed. and which is great because the seed's inexpensive. They germinate readily, and in fact, they come back from seed. There's some coming up down here in the patio already. from seed that was produced this year. But this combo of white and pink, and then last year we had kind of a two-tone white and pink, and we did the lavender. We've done lavender, we've done red. All of them are great, and the pollinators absolutely go crazy for them. They are not the most floriferous things. This video is not even full of things that you would, you know, I got dahlias sitting here in front of me that are quite a bit more showy. I've got hydrangeas back here that are more showy. I've got butterfly bushes that are more showy. But these salvia are industrial plants that bloom all summer, invite pollinators into your garden, and the deer don't eat them, and the rabbits don't eat them, which is, you know, just, you know, and if you forget to water them for a little while, they do this, and then you water them, and they're right back to blooming again. This is the other Salgoon salvia we have. This one's called Spencer Lake, and these are supposed to be hardy up into zone 7. I haven't overwintered one of these yet. It has this magenta colored flower, and then the calyx behind it is the same. I need to deadhead this one, although lots of flowers are coming. We were out of town for a little while, didn't water back here, and it definitely put a little bit of a stoppage, you know, in the flowering on it. But water it once and boom, there you go. We're a week or two away from having some serious flowers on that one again. Next up is Skyscraper Pink. You can see the pink flower on it. This is another zone 7 hardy one. We'll see another one of these Skyscraper varieties out in the front. And again, I love these. You get the pink flower, and then the calyx behind it is also kind of a pinkish hue to it. Great looking plant. This thing is bloomed all summer long. These flowers will be open by morning. Pollinators will be on them all day tomorrow. Again, we could give that thing a haircut and have it back in full bloom in about 2 weeks, and I think that's what we'll do after we finish up with this video. And then next up is Saucy Wine, and we've grown Saucy Red and Saucy Wine in this spot. Both of them are fantastic plants. This one's not going to be hardy for us. This one's a zone 9 perennial. But it's worth having because it's one of the heavier blooming salvias, and it grows so quick and so big in a single season. Again, we can go across the top of this thing and give it a haircut right now, but look how bright the flowers are. Bees absolutely love them. And again, the deer and the rabbits won't mess with them. Here's 2 more of our salvia out here in the garden. These 2 don't bloom during August though, so my favorite plant for August thing, but they still look great. This is Salvia officinalis, or sage. This is the herb sage. Get incredible blue flowers on these in the spring, in the early spring. This is another one of those cool season blooming salvias. Great, of course, this is the herb. You can take this new growth off and dry it or use it fresh. Again, it's going to bloom heavily though in the spring. It's a great flowering plant. There's a dahlia coming right up in the middle of it. And then right beside it is Salvia rosmarinus. Rosemary's been moved into the salvia. If you see this thing bloom, which it does here, this is another cool season blooming salvia, you'll see why. The flowers are very, very similar, but these will bloom in like February for us. As soon as we get a few warm nights, the soil temperature warms up a bit, that's when the rosemary blooms here in my area in Raleigh, North Carolina. Here's a Salvia gregii, and this is one that I was talking about, is definitely a cool season flowering machine. These will bloom in April and May very heavily, and then they'll bloom in September, October, and right into November if it stays mild. And I've seen these, I think most of the ones in our neighborhood here were blooming when we got the December freeze on December 23rd. This is Furman's red, and it will bloom even in the heat of the summer. It's going to throw a few flowers like this, but in the absolute heat, just 1 or 2. But as the nights start to cool down, this thing will get growing again and grow faster and faster and faster, and by October just be in absolute full bloom again. Here's one of our Salvia nemorosa varieties. We have Caradonna, which is purple. I can't remember what this one is off the top of my head. It's a little more compact than Caradonna. And then we have a white one out front we'll show you real quick. This is Salute White, and you can see a bumblebee on it. We're filming this a little later in the day, so we don't have as many bees on these salvia as we do in the peak of the heat. But of course, then the video looks a little washed out. But this white one, Salute White, Salvia nemorosa, has bloomed all summer for us. And normally, like I say, the nemorosas will bloom here April, May, into June, and then they just quit in cooler areas. Those of you watching in much colder areas, they'd be peak bloom right now. But for some reason, this Salute White just keeps blooming and blooming. So, Mystic Spires Blue, that's this variety. Look at all the bees that are on this thing, even you know, up towards 6 o'clock in the evening as most of the bees have gone home. They're still hitting this one hard. Got some pieces of azaleas that I pruned the other day, but this one has required no deadheading whatsoever. It has just been pretty much self-cleaning. As these flower spikes get to a certain length, it just seems like growth has come right up over the top of them. We haven't needed to prune on these. Most of the other salvia we're pruning back at some point during the summer just to kind of reset them and get them regrowing. Another one that we've always used as annuals are Victoria White and Victoria Blue salvias. Easy to do from seed, or typically you can find these, you know, in little 4-packs or 6-packs. Grow like crazy all summer long. Definitely not getting as much attention as the other one, the Mystic Spires up there. But during the day, you know, when they're, you know, when the pollinators are out, they're all over these as well. So I should say on that Victoria Blue and that Victoria White salvia, I said we planted them as annuals. We do have several of them that come back in the back garden. We're right on the edge of where that particular one comes back. And again, if it gets a year under it, it will always come back, and those are coming back every year now. But out here on this annual border in the front, we'll treat them as annuals because we can redo them from seed pretty easily. This is Summer Jewels Red. We showed you the Summer Jewels salvia in the back, the white and the pink. It needs a bit of a pruning back there to get it fired up again. This red has been vigorous. It's twice the height of the ones in the back garden. That may be because they're competing a bit with these zinnias, but they are definitely taller regardless, because the other ones are in competition as well, and super, super showy. I really like this. It's Summer Jewels Red, but it's not red. It's, you know, it's a pinkish red. Perfect little flowers that are just covered all day. Between this and the zinnias and the coleus that's starting to bloom behind it, you know, we can look out the front door, right out the front door here, and this thing's just absolutely covered all afternoon in bees. This salvia in the front annual border is called Vista Salmon. A great looking plant. It's been very, very vigorous. Haven't had to deadhead it at all. That was a Vista Lavender in the back garden. Same thing. Haven't had to touch it at all. It just blooms and blooms. Again, pollinators all over it, and no rabbits on it. Just to the right of that is Skyscraper Orange. This one has been super, super vigorous. We lost a few in that December 23rd freeze. We lost a few of our salvia that did not come back. And this one was included in that, so we replaced it. But I think, again, if I can just get a year under them, that's all I really need to have them come back. The ones that are marginal, the ones that are only zone 7 or zone 8 hardy. Again, that Salvia nemorosa, the Salute White that I showed you, very, very cold hardy. We also have Salvia sylvestris, that May Night, one perennial plant of the year a long time ago. And I think that thing's like zone 4 hardy. Almost anybody watching can grow it. In the northern areas, it'd be full bloom right now, but for us, it just has a couple flower spikes left. It just kind of burns out during the summertime. But I've always liked salvia and this variety of salvia that we have, and I'm sure we're actually going to miss a few in this video, because we can have them blooming basically from April until December in our area. You know, just variety dependent. And so if you find a mixture, especially here in zone 7, a lot of them overlap here where we are. Some of them we're using as annuals. Pretty much all that I've shown you are perennial plants. They're perennial somewhere, like maybe zone 10 or zone 11. But the vast majority of the ones I've shown you, though, are hardy up into zone 7 or maybe just inside of 8, and are reliable coming back for us most years. And once we get them, again, once we get them established, there's nothing tougher in this garden. One thing that happens in August with the salvia is the Salvia elegans just bolt, take off, growing like a weed. This thing comes up in May. It's one of the last perennials for us to wake up, and we always think they're dead before they do wake up, because they're really technically zone 8 hardy only. This one's called Pineapple Yellow. It was much brighter gold earlier in the season. It loses a little bit of that chartreuse color as the season goes on. But right now it's in the process of, probably, not exaggerating, it has these really furry, soft furry stems on it. It's in the process of probably adding an inch or 2 of growth a day. And it will start blooming in September at about this height. It will grow this much this month. It just goes absolutely bonkers, and then it blooms red. It's bright red on this chartreuse kind of foliage, and it's so striking. one of my absolute favorite plants because it's everything, most everything else in the garden will have quit. When this thing just like goes, let's start growing in the worst part of the summer and the worst of the heat, you know, let's grow 5 feet and bloom. And that's what the Salvia elegans does. And again, there's a green foliage varieties, and then this one has the chartreuse and the red flowers on it. Salvia elegans. Again, 1,000 different species of salvias, and then of course we have all kinds of hybridization going on between lots of those, and just super interesting plants. And those of you who have pest issues, you know, that you're always fighting, you know, I highly recommend using either salvia as annuals. You know, we're using them as annuals, we're using them as perennials, we're using them as ground covers, we're using them in our annual borders, even if they're not annuals. We're just using them all over the place because I don't have to think about them. I know that I can put a salvia in the ground, it'll come up, it'll bloom. After it finishes blooming heavily, I'll give it a 1/3 haircut, water it, and it will immediately flush back out and start blooming again, depending on variety dependent, of course, you know, on temperature and that kind of thing. But they're all pretty daggone easy, and it's one of my, that's the reason it's one of my favorite plants for August is we still have them performing out here in the garden. So what's your favorite salvia variety? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching.